no matter what the wood piece is, I'm going to start by base coating both sides of the surface with a 1-to-1 mix of multi-purpose sealer and Snow White. This will give my pieces a firm, light, solid background for the napkins to go on top, because the napkins, if there is any white on that napkin, if you don't have a white background, it will pick up whatever color your background is. So I love to give that solid white background first. I'm going to do that on both sides, let it dry, and then I'm going to come right back. After you have the coat of Snow White and multi-purpose sealer on there, sand it down because it will get rough. Sand it down, and then go back, and if you have to put one more coat of the straight Snow White on it, go ahead and do that and dry that. Now that there's nice coverage on here, I want to start preparing them for the decoupaging. On the stocking, what I do, because I want to keep the top part a fluffy, furry kind of thing, I will take my tape and put it right on the edge. So actually I can go right across through that opening, and I'm going to put it right on the edge from one corner to the next corner. Fold over those edges for easy removal, but I'm cutting right above that line on both sides. So make sure you are right in line with the corners. This way here, I'll keep that white and I'll just decoupage below it. This angel is going to be totally decoupaged. This angel, I want to just decoupage her dress, and that gets a little trickier. So what I did was took my napkin, and you know about the fact that you have to take apart the napkin. There might be 2-ply or 3-ply on the napkins. So what you do is you pull the backing off, and that's 1, and I believe this is 2. So you want to get down to just this one sheet, okay? Now I have that napkin, and I want to place my pattern on here so I can see what flowers I can in my design. And after I do that, I'm going to take my graphite and just the part where I have to cut, because all of this and down is going to be the dress, so I don't have to worry about the edges here necessarily. If you want to bring that over to make it easier for you, but these other edges we can get rid of later. So make sure you can see that, and then take your scissors. It's like paper doll cutting when you cut out the paper doll clothes. On her, I'm going to place my pattern, and each piece of wood is cut differently, so do the best you can to line it up. Now I'm going to take my napkin formula decoupage, and take my old scruffy brush. I want to make sure that I have this positioned properly, so that works. Peel it up a little bit. and put some decoupage. Put that down and then do the rest. Make sure you get the edges. And I decoupage on the top and on the bottom, you know, under and over. Set that aside to dry. On this one, I'm using this napkin, and I want this whole area to be her dress. So I'm going to bring that right down the bottom of the tree, right down to the bottom of her dress. So knowing that, and I'm just going to decoupage the entire surface. Make sure you get those edges. Okay, and we're going to set that aside to dry. Lastly is my stocking. You can, when you have a design like this, you want to be careful of the direction of the design. It can, I say, either go up or down, but I don't know that I'd want it to go sideways, so I wouldn't put my stocking this way. Put your stocking that way and decide whether you want this pointing down and those up or vice versa. And I think that I'm going to just do that. And remember, you're not putting it up here. It's always going to be below the tape. So you can use the edge of your tape there so you don't have to worry about cutting it off. Put that aside, let these dry for about a half an hour, and then we will remove the excess and we'll start painting. Now that the decoupage is dry, we need to get the excess napkin off of our wood, right? So, handy dandy tool, an emery board. You can start by sanding the edge. Start on a straight edge if you want. You can also take a sanding disc. You can get a little emery board, or you can get one of these round tubular things, and if it fits in there, you can sand it. So go ahead and do that all the way around the edges. After you have the edges all sanded off, go ahead and transfer on your pattern lines. Okay, I'm going to start on her first, so I'll put these away. And we're going to base coat the wings with golden straw, her hair with burnt sienna. Her face and hands will be flesh tone or warm beige. Her shoe is also golden straw. The heart is golden straw. And the inside of her sleeves are going to be terra coral. Go ahead and do that. Okay, so this is one coat of burnt sienna. It's okay that it's see-through. I have 2 coats of the gold, if not 3 coats on here. I can still see my line through it, so that's fine to separate the wings. And I added 2 sleeves on this one where I only have 1 on that one. Your choice. You can have 2 hands, you can have 1 hand, doesn't matter. I should put another, I probably have 2 coats and need 3 coats of the flesh tone on her hands and face. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on. Okay, while our hands and face are drying, we're going to go ahead and put the wings on with 1 coat of Tradition's True Gold. While that's drying, let's go back to the face and hands. And I'm going to shade them with burnt sienna. That's a side load. I'm going to go against her hairline, and since the hair is burnt sienna, it doesn't matter. I can go right over top of it. And then be more careful around the hands. We're going to go against the sleeve and down the back side. If you want to add another hand, take a narrow float of burnt sienna and just paint is against the inside, water against the outside. And you can tuck that in there so it looks like she's got two hands. And if you want an extra thumb, just tuck that a little bit in there. I'm going to do a side load of burnt sienna just to deepen that a little bit. Both sides of the bang. You can come in and do curls. It won't show up much right now, but it's okay. If you only put one coat on there, if you put more than one coat on there, it won't show up at all. You can add some curls in here. Okay. Let's go and take care of the wings, the heart, and the shoes. And we're going to shade those with burnt umber. And again, that's a side load. Narrow one down here on the shoe against the dress. Tap it out. A narrow one under her hand. Against the top of her hand. Walk it up a little bit. I did one down at the peak here, and when this is dry you can bring it to the bottom of the heart and back up on this edge. On the wings, I'm going to go against the dress. It can be fairly wide. Before you start shading the wings, if you want to go ahead and put your line drawing on, you can do that. And I'm going to go down and back up. And I don't have my line drawing on, so I'm just faking it. So I'm going to go a little higher on this. And I'm cleaning that with just a clean brush. Water in my brush. Put a little bit of burnt umber against the hairline. Now I'm going to dry that. So because my line drawing is not the same, and I'm doing it by hand, I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm going to make my own lines, like so. So now I'm going to go and shade those with burnt umber. I'm going to first deepen this one here, and then do the next line. This one here, you can go underneath it, and you'll have to let that dry. While that's drying, go ahead and reinforce the other areas that we did. Blow dry this, and then I'm going to shade on the left side of the line. So I'm going to turn it over. So just the same position, the paint is against the dress area, the paint's toward the dress area. Let's do little scallops in here. While it's drying, let's go to the face, and if you have enough area, you can take your 10-aught or 20-aught liner with some of that burnt sienna, and you can put an eye in, and then if you have a nose, some of them have noses, some of them don't. Like this one here really doesn't have a nose. You can put in a mouth. Her cheek is going to be terra coral, and you can do that with a round blender brush, or you can do it with a dry brush, like so. So I pick up a little bit of that pink, wipe it into my brush hairs, and then take a piece of dry paper towel and wipe most of it off. And then go and brush in her cheek. While you have your wet brush, if you want to just put some cheeks in this one too, keep them low. And then you can wash your brush out. I'm going to add a little bit of a highlight of white. And put that at the top of her hand here. On top of her thumb. Some on her chin. Top of her nose, forehead. A little bit under her eye. I'm also going to take that white and do a highlight on the top of the heart, toe, as I want to do it on this front wing. And if it's too white, mix it with your gold. So you can mix some of the white with your gold. I'm going to take that 10-aught liner with that burnt umber, and then I'm going to start putting lines down the middle of each and then feather them out. Center. Each one of these has a line down the center as well, and some on the side. Okay, now let's do the hair. Her hair's kind of curly. She has some straight bangs going on, but the rest of it's kind of curly. But I'm going to start doing the bangs with some burnt umber streaks. Not a lot. Just set that in. And then I'm going to take my 1/4-inch filbert comb or a rake brush, and I'm going to pick up some of the burnt umber. I like to splay it out, push it in and pull it out. Some white in there. And I'm going to start to pull some curl curl lines from the outside. Not that you can see them right now too much, but just a few curl lines from the outside. And then you can create some from the inside as well. If you want to form these curls and then pretend there's some curls in here. Now I'm going to start to put the lighter values. So I'm going to use a brush mix of flesh tone and burnt sienna. A little bit more burnt sienna to flesh tone until I can regulate the color against her hair. I'm not going to go all the way back out to where the burnt umber was. I'm going to start further in where the center of the curl would be. And if that doesn't show up, let's go and add a little bit more of the flesh tone. There you go. This is in the center of each curl. You can pull it towards burnt umber or away from it. And you can pull some bangs down. With the dirty brush, go in and pick up some straight flesh tone and hit the tops of each curl. Now that you have the highlights on, you can better see where you need the darks. So you can go in and pick up some of that burnt umber and add that where you feel like you could use some more darks. I'm going to move on to her dress, and I want to use light buttermilk to do her ruffle here. If you want to go with the straight white, you can do that too. I think I picked the light buttermilk to soften it, warm it up a little bit. I'm going to use number 6, and you can trace your pattern on again if you want, or just freehand it. It might take a couple coats, so go ahead and paint that light buttermilk. Okay, when that's dry, I'm going to take my flat brush and a side load of the burnt umber. This is not for side load purposes, but it's only on one corner of the brush. Hold the brush at a 90-degree angle to your surface, and then tap and pull, following the curve of the top piece. So it starts in a peak, and put some close together, and swoop up, start straight again. While those are drying, I'm going to take out some antique maroon, and with a side load, I'm going to go under the heart. So from under the hand to all the way under the heart. I'm going to do the top of the shoulder, and stop right there. Pick up underneath the shoulder and bring it down to where the sleeve meets the outside edge here. And if it doesn't move for you easily, just pick up a little water, moisture, and pat it to move. I'm going to come down the back a little bit against the wing, but not so much over here. On the bottom of her sleeve, I'm going to take a side load of Terra Coral just to deepen that ever so slightly. Now I want to take some white and I'm going to highlight the top of her sleeve. Front of her dress. Again, not that you see it much, but it will lighten some of the design. With this side load, we can do outside the ruffle, the low parts. I'm also going to take some of this white and I'm going to go up or down those gathers. I flip the brush on this side. So the paint is against the left side on the first two and against the right side on the right one. I want to put a little bit antique maroon against the inside of the sleeve. And we can do it on this one as well, if you have two sleeves there. Now I'm going to take the antique maroon and go up the gathers on the skirt. And then this one here will go, I like to start on the chisel and then I flatten it out. And if you want, you can go right through the ruffle. I'm going to take some burnt umber and do a side load along the top of the ruffle. And now we get to add some detail. I'm going to do that with Thicket. You can use your 4 round or you can size down. I'm going to put a little trim on the edge of her sleeve. And against the top of her ruffle. I'm going to add a highlight of white plus Thicket, make a lighter Thicket value. I'm going to hit the top of the sleeve here, and then the swoop on each of these. If it starts to blend, just pick up some more mix. If you want to heighten that, just go into the straight white and hit a very small area within the area you just did. Next thing I'm going to do is add dots. You can add it with your brush, you can add it with your stylus, you can do different kind of designs. I'm doing 2 against the trim and 1 between them. And I'll do the same down here. Treat each section individually. Don't just go on and connect them. So then I painted the back with the pink value, and I did a gold on the sides. You can either paint that on the side, or you can use a gold foiling pen and marker and just rub up the edges with the gold. Spray varnish it, or give it 2 coats of brush on varnish. I like using Duraclear Soft Touch. And you are ready to hang her up. Base coat the wings with light buttermilk, the halo with a Hauser medium green. The face is flesh tone. This one I added a dry brush of cheek with terra coral. Her hands are flesh tone, and put your pattern on. Now I'm going to side load the dress with some antique maroon. I want to base coat the underdress and the inside of the sleeves with the antique maroon.
Henry, what's happened to us and our marriage? We used to have such fun, you and Debbie and I. We used to be happy. We used to make other people.
While that's drying, I'm going to shade the face and the hands with burnt sienna. I'm going to highlight the face with some flesh tone plus the light buttermilk. In the center of the face, I'm kind of just doing a back-to-back loose and then a side load at the chin. While that's drying, I'm going to shade along the inside around the head with plantation pine. While that's drying, I will do some detail work. The collar will be light buttermilk and the lines will be with the Hauser medium green. I'm going to put the facial features in with some burnt sienna. I'm going to highlight around the outside of the halo with a foliage green and also add some highlights to the detail, and then the plantation pine will be the shadow on the detail. If it doesn't show up, add a little bit of light buttermilk to the foliage. Now I'm going to highlight the dress with the light buttermilk. And if that doesn't show up enough, I can add some Snow White to it. I'm going to take my dome round and load it with light buttermilk and run some highlights on either side and down the center. I don't want it too light. Wipe the excess off in your paper towel before you go to your piece. Add a little bit up here on the arm. I'm going to add a little shading underneath the arm. Add a little soft shade right here. Kind of a back to back. So it kind of goes in where the arm puffs it out. Make sure you don't lose any of your shading here. Shade up the center with your antique maroon. Using your dry brush, your highlight with the light buttermilk is going to go on both sides. I'm going to add some shoes. And we can do that with the foliage green. Make some slippers. Watch where your line comes down. When that's dry, I'm going to shade it with, let's shade that with the Hauser medium green first. See if that shows up. And then with the corner of your brush, a little bit of the light buttermilk. Before I go and do the halo, I want to do her hair. And I'm going to start with the antique maroon. And you can give her whatever hairstyle you want. And this is when you can reshape her face too. And I'm going to add a little burnt sienna. but not to the part that's behind. And then I'm going to add some flesh tone. Try to have your brush on a chisel. Bring these ones along that are near her face. Her bangs go sideways. And if you lost a part in her hair you want to put a part, just add some more of the dark. And I'm going to put a headband of the Hauser Medium. And I'm going to highlight that with the foliage and then shade where it goes behind the hair with Plantation Pine. On her halo, take a chalk brush if you want and do a line a little bit in from the outside edge and then do scallops. Her halo's crooked on her head, or her head's crooked in the halo, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. I want you to do the lines with the Plantation Pine, but paint the inside circles with the Antique Maroon. I'm going to highlight the round circles with some foliage green because it's the Plantation Pine isn't showing up very much. Now I'm going to put a flesh tone, a dot inside each one. I'm going to make 2 leaves with Hauser Medium green on her collar. And then I'm going to add a little touch, a very tiny touch of foliage at the middle, kind of like to give it a highlight. And then with my stylus, I'm going to add a dot flower of the Antique Maroon. I did 4 dots for each flower. And I'm going to put a dot of flesh tone in the middle of the 4-petal flower. Okay, I'm going to go with some Plantation Pine light floats on the wings. I kept the paint to the inside of the ornaments, so that means it's against the halo, it's against the body, and the paint is always towards the body, fading away from the body. Make sure that your lines are dry before you cross over. Shade the collar against her shoulder with Antique Maroon. Add a little shading of Plantation Pine under her arm, where her, where the wrist is, and behind. And I will also be lining the wings with Plantation Pine. So after you cleaned off the decoupage napkin, base coat the toe and the heel on this particular napkin with Hauser Medium Green. It might take 2 or 3 coats so that the red doesn't show through. I'm going to add one more coat. You can always pre-base or undercoat this with white before you put the green on. Just put that on. I left the tape on as well. The highlight on this is going to be foliage green, and the shading on the toe and the heel are done with plantation pine. I also added some plantation pine up around the edges and even under the fluff. That's why I leave this on, so I don't get any of that overage. I'm going to dry this, and then I'm going to start the shading and highlighting. And you can use the number 12, or if you'd rather, size up to a 3/4 inch. You get the job done faster. It's a side load. And I'm going to just do the top of the toe. Bring it down a little bit. And then on the heel, I go up in that corner. So I start parallel with one side, walk it down a little bit, and then like a pie wedge. If it doesn't move for you easily, go and get a little moisture or reload. And then parallel with this side. And soften that out. If you need to, you can take your mop brush and mop that out. Just put my finger in it. Mop that out. The shade is the plantation pine, like I said. I'm going to size down to my 12 for this one. I don't want it overpowering my stocking. And bring it right down over the heel. When you get to the toe end, halfway up, so you don't want it to go over your, you can bring some down here like the pie wedge also. You don't want it to go over your highlight. Start on this side. And across. Let's dry that. I'm going to do the stitching with my 10 or 20 aught liner and some of the foliage. If it doesn't show up, I'll mix it with a little bit of white. Now that that's done, I'm going to take the tape off. And if this is dry, you want to de-tack this, so on your fabric you're going to put it down and lift it off until you lose a lot of the tackiness, and put it on your paper. Not too tight, don't rub it down too much, just to help cover it a little bit. I'm going to use my Deerfoot brush, and I'm going to go on with the Hauser medium and my Deerfoot brush. Pick up some of that on the toe. And it's wet, it's okay. I want to get some of the water out, that's fine. And I'm going to start with this color on the left. And just pounce it, mostly the colors, the left into the bottom, and lighten up as you go up there. And it's going to be, if it's a lot of water in my brush, as you see, it kind of melts into each other, which is fine right now. Wash your brush out and blow dry that. Now I'm going to pick up some of the Snow White. This time I'm going to get the water out of my brush. Get the green and the water out of your brush. And then pick that up on the toe. And start in the upper right and fluff down. I like going back and forth, not to make a pattern. So you want some of that green to show through. Let's blow dry that again. And then I'm going to shade the left side and along the bottom with the plantation pine. Side load. Soft side load down the left side and across the bottom. Not a perfect one, dabby dabby, just to soften that. I didn't put any highlights on the stocking. I didn't feel the need to, but if you want to scrub some highlights in here, you can. I did finish off the edges with a marker, a gold marker, and that's easy enough to do. Take that thick side. Once you get it started, look at your directions, and you just rub it along the edge like so, and it comes right out and finishes your edges for you. So easy peasy. I finished the back with a coat of Hauser medium green. I left that white, and I'm going to put my great nieces and nephews' names on it with the year that I gave them the stocking. And that's it. That's how easy that is. Easy, easy, easy. I'm wishing you all a Merry Christmas. Enjoy making these ornaments, and I'll see you next year. Remember to always paint with heart.